When the teenager walked out of the mud bottle lane, she just met Jigui, Song Jigson's maid. After sending the tall woman to Gu Kan's house, she was not in a hurry to go home. Instead, she went through the lane and strolled through the small shop in Xianxia Lane. Although she didn't buy anything, she was still in a good mood, bouncing and light all the way. Growing up in the wild water in the countryside, it is like a girl with a smell of green grass. She is different from those ladies with high eaves, big houses, and deep courtyards. But after seeing the straw sandal boy, she didn't lower her eyebrows and eyes as before, slightly accelerated her pace and walked sideways. Instead, she stopped and stared at the neighbor she didn't often deal with. Chen Ping'an smiled at her, trotted past her, and then ran faster and faster. Jigui stood quietly on the opening of the mud bottle lane and looked around. The poor boy running in the sun was like a wild cat with tenacious vitality. He didn't look very good, but he seemed to be hungry. The girl is not pleasant in the town, affected by the strange temperament of young Song Jigson. The servant girl named Jigui always gives people a feeling of being out of touch, and has no playmates of people of the same age. She never likes to talk more when she makes acquaintances. Whether she goes to the iron log well to fetch water, goes to the market to buy things, or buys stationery for her youth. For people who prefer lively and festive towns, such girls are really difficult to get close to. In this regard, Chen Ping'an's situation is actually somewhat similar to that of her maidservant, Jigui. The difference is that although the young man doesn't like to talk, his character is absolutely not annoying. On the contrary, the young man is gentle and friendly. He has never had any sharp edge, but it's just the relationship between his family's decline and Ellie went to the dragon kill to burn porcelain for a living. It seems that the relationship with the neighbors is not so familiar. Of course, there are some unspeakable and unknown fears about the birthday of teenagers in the neighborhood of Naiping Lane. On the 5th day of May, in the local customs of the town, it belongs to the evil day of the combination of 5 poisons. When teenagers were born on this day and his parents died one after another, Chen Ping'an had long become the last single seedling in the family, which naturally makes people murmur in their hearts, especially when they are old. The old man who likes to join the fun in the old locust tree is particularly alienated from the young man in the mud bottle lane. In private, he will warn his children not to approach, but whenever the children are reluctant and ask why, the old people can't say why. At this time, a slender figure came out of the alley and stood beside the girl. The maid Jigui turned her head and walked forward without saying a word. The man turned and walked side by side with her in the mud bottle lane. Thought it was Che Jingchen, the only scholar in the town and a serious Confucian student. The girl kept walking and her face was cold. Well, water doesn't invade the river, don't you? And don't forget, say, it was you who occupied the right time, place, and people before. Of course, I, a little cheap slave, can only swallow my anger. But since recently, say, there seems to be something wrong with your Dharma temple tens of millions of miles away, right? So now, sir, it's just well water, and I'm the only one at the river. Mr. Dao Che, an uninvited guest in the mud bottle lane, smiled and said, Wang Zhu, just do as the Romans do for the time being and call you Jigui. Jigui, have you ever thought that although you are favored by heaven and earth and came into being, you really think I have no means to win? What do you think that thousands of years ago, the 4 saints who saw the dragon head but did not see the tail came here together to make rules in person, but just talked about it without leaving any behind? Speaking of it, at the end of the day, you just sit and watch the sky. The sky is high and the earth is vast. It's far from the scene at the wellhead. The girl frowned. Mr. Dao Chen, don't scare me with words. I'm not my young master Song Jigson. I'm not interested in and never believe your high-sounding words. Say, you might as well open the skylight and tell the truth. It's good to fight and kill, gather and disperse. I'll follow. The middle-aged Confucian scholar said slowly. I advise you not to take an ancient fish in the dry water after you leave the cage here. That it's no good for anyone, especially after you and him set foot on the road of cultivation, whether you become a Taoist companion or not. You should restrain your spirit and don't be arrogant. This is not a threat. But some of my heartfelt words on the occasion of parting are kind reminders. It is reasonable to say that the identities of the two people are very different. But the Major Gui is extremely neither humble nor arrogant. Even the current momentum is vaguely over the Confucian scholar's head and sneers. Kindness. For thousands of years, you great practitioners have held this place as a crop field, cutting a crop this year, pulling a bundle next year, year after year, unchanged for thousands of years. How come now you begin to think of being kind to others with my evil barrier? Ha ha! I heard the young master say a word, which is regarded as the standard by many of you. Called it's not our race, but our hearts must be different, right? So it's no wonder Mr. Che, after all Mr. Che continued to move forward, took a step gently and smiled. Oh, after one step, the maidservant Jigui's face changed slightly. They did not know when they were standing in a place that it was dark everywhere, and they could not see their fingers. Only above their heads, countless lights with sacred bread fell. They were like standing at the bottom of a bottomless well, and the golden sunshine slowly fell from the wellhead. The middle-aged Confucian scholar wore a green shirt. There were bursts of streamers on his clothes. Noble spirit, above board and bright. The girl's face was ferocious at first, but she soon recovered her indifferent numbness and whispered, "For 60 years, Buddhist and Sanskrit sounds are like thunder in the ear. For 60 years, Taoist talismans are like maggots in the tarsal bone, trying to bite. For 60 years, they are noble and upright, blocking out the sky and the sun, and there is nowhere to hide. For 60 years, the warrior's sword spirit is like a ground dog's turning over, and everywhere is sputtered. Every Jian is a reincarnation. For 3,000 years, there is no peace. I just want to know what you call the route of the Great Road only. Where is it? Saying what? I can see and hear the words in black and white in his books, and I can't find them. She looked at the dignified middle-aged man. He was not only an unknown teacher in a remote place, but also Xianxia of the Confucian Cliff Academy. He was a scholar who even the powerful Dao Temple of the Sui dynasty should be called sir. The girl suddenly smiled and asked, "Say, why did you teach me and how to persuade me to be good?" If I remember correctly, the most holy teacher of Confucianism and one of the ancestors of Taoism will put forward the idea of teaching without class. The man shook his head and said, "It's no use telling you 10,000 words of sage teachings." The girl seemed to be chatting with the Confucian scholar quietly, but in fact, the whole person was like a tight bow. The corner of her eyes kept looking around for clues of the broken situation. The Confucian turned a blind eye to this and sneered. "I know you actually have endless anger, resentment, and killing intention. I don't tolerate different kinds. But you know that random compassion and compassion are never the real teachings of the three religions. The young master of our family often talks with scholars that it's the most boring." The girl pulled the corners of her mouth and narrowed her strange golden heavy pupils. It turns out that Mr. Che is really shining back. Naturally, it's more difficult to provoke than ever. He laughed it off. It doesn't matter if the truth doesn't make sense. But as long as Xianxia is alive and qualified to sit here one day, you ungrateful evil don't want to open your teeth and claws. The girl pointed to herself, smiled and asked, "I'm ungrateful." The middle-aged Confucian said angrily, "When you were weakest, you had to bow your head and take the initiative to conclude a contract with others. Who saved you in the snowy day of Mud Bottle Lane? Who has nibbled away his last breath over the years?" The girl smiled and said, "When you are hungry, you have to find something to eat and fill your stomach. Isn't that a natural thing? Besides, he has no big chance to die early and reincarnate early. Maybe there is still a little slim hope in his next life, if you let him stay in the town." "Hey, that's really double quotes." The Confucian waved his big sleeve and shouted softly. "Shut up," the scholar angrily denounced. "The mystery of the Great Road is clear. Can you say it in a word? Life has destiny. What qualifications do you have to make choices for others?" On the top of the girl's head, a shining golden hand appeared out of thin air. It was majestic, like the Buddha subduing the heavenly demons with one palm. and like the Taoist ancestor suppressing evil deeds with one hand, it pressed on the girl's head rapidly, forcing her to kneel down instantly and knock her forehead heavily on the ground. Called out common thumping. The girl with her head down, holding her hands on the ground, struggled to get up without her face. She sent out a burst of impatient laughter. You can press me down, but I will never admit my mistake. The majestic golden hand pulled the girl's head, lifted it and pressed it, and called out again. The sound was as heavy as spring thunder. The Confucian scholar said in a deep voice, "Don't forget, this thread of vitality is given to you by the saints, not won by you. Otherwise, don't mention suppressing you for 3,000 years. What's the difficulty for 30,000 years?" The girl whose head was always held down had a hoarse voice. "I won't go away with your bullshit road." The Confucian raised his arm high and suddenly patted the void in front of him. "Presumptuous. Give me the 10. From the center of the golden light cast from the wellhead, the white jade seal emerged out. It is more than Zhang long and wide, square and upright. The seal is engraved with 8 ancient characters, some of which are extremely bright red and dazzling, and countless purple lightning lingered around the seal. With the order of Xianxia, it can be said that the huge seal fell from the sky and hit the back of the girl, who was kneeling on the ground. This huge seal containing the authority of heaven seems not to be a real object. Instead of pressing the girl to the ground, it quickly embeds into the ground with wind and thunder, and there is no trace. It is like big rain and little thunder. But a moment later, the whole girl seemed to be broken by heavy objects, and collapsed on the ground like a pool of mud, which was very miserable. Even so, the girl had a hand with 5 fingers like a hook and tried her best. Her 5 fingernails seemed to engrave words on the ground. Xianxia was expressionless and said in a cold voice, "They're called also for you to respect heaven and earth. Common people." Afternoon. The girl's eyes were dull and did not respond. Xianxia gently waved his sleeve and dispersed the suffocating majestic majesty. Xianxia is just the corrupt scholar under the sage's door, which can make you count out 3 times. Once you go out and do whatever you want, I am not afraid that if you encounter a more unreasonable existence than you, 1 finger will crush you. Xianxia sighed. You're indeed suppressed and detained here and cannot be free. But have you ever thought that there is absolute freedom in the world? The supreme sage of Confucianism formulated all kinds of rituals to seek another kind of freedom for all living beings. As long as you don't exceed the rules and regulations, you just need to abide by the etiquette. One day, heaven and earth will be big. Where can you go? The girl raised her head and stared at the middle-aged Confucian scholar. Xianxia took a step. Heaven and earth returned to normal. He and his mate Gui returned to the mud bottle lane. The sun was warm and the spring breeze was warm. The girl stood up shakily, with a pale smile and a little stern teeth. "Say, I wrote down today's instruction." Xianxia stopped talking and turned away. She suddenly asked, "Even if I'm ungrateful to Chen Ping'an, why would you, as an outstanding sage, stand idly by? Why do you only treat disciple Zhao Yao and my young master with green eyes? It's no different from ordinary Chen Ping'an. It's like doing business with merchants. If you can live in a rare commodity, you can cultivate it carefully and deal with the shoddy goods. Functor. Can you sell at good price? Don't care at all." Xianxia smiled. Heaven is healthy, and the gentleman keeps improving himself. The girl was at a loss. When the middle-aged Confucian figure disappeared at the end of the alley, the girl immediately showed disdain and gave a cruel pull. She limped back to her yard. When she passed Chen Ping'an's house, she wrinkled her nose and frowned. She was a little confused. Just because the Taoist practice of the damn scholar collapsed, the town was full of secrets. Just like a leaky boat, she was too busy to care about herself. She had to plan carefully for the future, so she didn't bother to haggle over every detail. When she opened the courtyard door, a crude and insignificant quadruped snake rushed out of nowhere, quickly climbed to her feet, and kicked her angrily. In Chen Ping'an's room, the young Taoist sat at the table, looking at his nose and heart. Not long ago, the girl in black, who was still dying, was able to sit cross-legged on the bed without wearing a curtain hat. revealing a memorable face. It's not to say how the young girl likes the country and the city, but she is too heroic and makes people forget her appearance to a great extent. A girl's eyebrows are not like willow leaves or narrow knives. When she gazed at the young Taoist with a sense of scrutiny, the latter was a little embarrassed. It was clear that she had not done anything bad, but she was a little guilty. The young Taoist coughed and quickly got rid of himself. Girl, I said in advance that I saved you, but I carried you into the house, took off your curtains and hats, washed your face, and so on. But there are other people. His name is Chen Ping'an. The owner of this dilapidated house is a poor boy like a black charcoal. His parents died, worked as a porcelain craftsman, and asked me for a piece of room paper. Basically, there are so many. Girl, if you still have one, what do you want to ask? I must know everything and say everything. Straw Sandal Boy. It's sold out. The girl nodded and didn't become angry. She just said in good faith, "Thank you, Taoist priest, for saving your life." The young Taoist, who was beating drums in his heart, said with a smile, "It's okay. Just raise your hand and the girl will be fine." The girl in black asked, "Isn't the Taoist priest from Dongbao Pingshu?" The young Taoist asked, "The girl is not, is she?" She gave a wail. The Taoist also followed. The young Taoist with the lotus crown on his head said with a smile, "I'm Lu Mingshan, and I don't have a Taoist name. I can call Lu Dust at ordinary times." The girl nodded gently and glanced at the Taoist crown of the young Taoist. The young Taoist hesitated for a moment, emboldened himself and said, "Although the young man has some things that are not polite, he is in a hurry to be in power. In addition, I didn't expect the girl to recover so quickly, so I hope the girl won't blame him." The girl smiled and said, "Taoist Lu, I'm not unreasonable." The young Taoist laughed and said, "That's good. That's good." The girl raised her eyebrows, and the young Taoist's smile became rigid. She looked around, her eyes bland. She said casually, "I heard that the ruined master, who is the first to forge swords in this continent, plans to forge swords here. I followed all the way here. I hope he can help me forge a sword." The young Taoist said with emotion, "If it was him, it would not be easy for him to forge the sword himself." The girl in black obviously had some trouble. "It's very difficult." At this time, the boy carried a bag of herbal medicine in his left hand and a small package in his right hand. He first knocked on the door symbolically. Then he quickly crossed the threshold, put the herbs on the table, and whispered, "Taoist priest, see if you caught it wrong. If so, I'll change it immediately." The boy always carried the package, turned and looked at the girl. The girl in black sitting cross-legged on the wooden bed looked at the boy in straw sandals. The girl in black said calmly, "Hello, my father's surname is Ning and my mother's surname is Yao. So my name is Ning Yao." The straw sandal boy subconsciously said, "Hello, my father's surname is Chen and my mother's surname is Chen, so ... But the young man looked embarrassed. The soon smiled frankly and said, "My name is Chen Ping'an." Girls are nothing. The young Taoist couldn't help laughing. The young Taoist suddenly realized that something was wrong with the atmosphere and quickly changed the topic. "The tender leaves of Tamarisk chinensis in Jordan are called 3 spring willows here. Its leaves are picked incorrectly and 7 or 8 days late. There is also this bag of long fade grass, commonly known as girl waste, which is to kill us when grinding powder. There is also this pile of paper flowers." The young shop is even more unreasonable. It's agreed that 3 liang is less than 1 money. The young Taoist poured beans in a bamboo tube and picked a lot of problems. Almost none of them were satisfied. He felt like he had some personal grudges with the young family medicine shop. Finally, he took a big turn and closed the coffin and said, "The shopkeeper's conscience has been eaten by the dog. But the herbs on the table are enough to save people. Of course, this is mainly due to the good health of this girl named Yang, who has at most half a copper coin with the young shop." As soon as the young Taoist patted his head, he spread out a plain white paper, raised his pen and wrote, and told him, "I almost forgot. I'll write you another prescription for the concocting medicine. It's a real and meticulous work. Chen Ping'an, you can't be careless. I'm not only healing the wound, but also strengthening the foundation and strengthening the yuan. It's the best way for strategists to support the war on the premise of being invincible. Moreover, it's good to be warm and harmless. At most, it takes more time and buy more medicinal herbs and nothing more than spending money. I have written down in detail when to fry them quickly and slowly. I even pay attention to when to fry them. In short, how hard you work in the next 10 days. Chen Ping'an. A man is the one who carries the burden. Otherwise, how could an indomitable husband say, "You must not shirk your responsibility and call others a little girl for nothing"? Read it. Speaking of the word indomitable, the young Taoist shook his head imperceptibly. A prescription is only half a piece of paper. 2 pieces of paper were used to decode the medicine. The font is very ordinary small block letters. Square and the price. Chen Ping'an was a little worried and asked, "Taoist priest, don't you care about things later? Is it safer for Taoist priest to stare at such a life and death event in person?" The young Taoist reluctantly said, "I'm leaving the town. There's a family gate of the poor road in Nanjian country. There's a ceremony to be held. I want to see it with my own eyes." Chen Ping'an was more helpless. "Taoist priest, but I can't read." The young Taoist was stunned and said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. Miss Ning knows the words. Just ask her more about it before decocting the medicine." The girl nodded. Chen Ping'an still wanted to speak. The young Taoist suddenly remembered the event. He took out a sapphire seal from his sleeve. It was small and exquisite. He took a gentle breath at the printing surface, then pressed it heavily against the paper on which the prescription was written. After lifting the seal from the paper, he was quite satisfied. After collecting his sleeve, the young Taoist handed it to Chen Ping'an together with the other 2 pieces of paper. "Keep it well. Most of the books in the town are collected by private families. It's not easy for you to buy them. If you really want to learn words, you can start with the prescription of poverty." The young Taoist smiled at the girl and said, "A leaf of duckweed goes to the sea. Where will we not meet in life, Miss Ning? Will we meet again later?" The girl in black said positively, "Taoist Lu, I'll see you later. Great Grace doesn't say thank you. In the future, as long as you need my help, you can fly the sword to pass the book to the Upside Down Mountain. Just Taoist remember, don't forget to sign the word Lu Chen. Otherwise the Upside Down Mountain may not allow the flying sword to enter the mountain gate." After hearing the name Upside Down Mountain, the young Taoist was obviously a little surprised and wanted to stop talking. The girl shook her head slightly. He soon understood his mind and stopped asking the bottom. Some things are better for the teenagers in the house. The young Taoist took the lead in leaving the house and didn't forget to pull the young man's arm. "Chen Ping'an, I'll talk to you at last." Chen Ping'an first put the package on the bed and told the girl in black that it was a new dress. After the 2 came to the yard, the young Taoist asked directly in a low voice, "With your memory, you must have recognized the words on the first prescription. In addition, there is a book reading "See living next door." The saying illiterate is not the real reason for you to stop me from leaving." Chen Ping'an replied, with the ability of Taoist priest, "I must know the reason." The young Taoist smiled. "Do you think you will die, so you are afraid that no one will take care of the little girl?" Chen Ping'an nodded and said, "Since I opened the door at that time, I had to be responsible to the end." The young Taoist stood beside the cart with his fingers together and quietly wiped it. The long white scabbard sword, which was pressed into the sword by the Confucian Che Jingchen, flew into the house quietly. It should be that the girl in black didn't want to scare Chen Ping'an, so she acquiesced to the violation of the flying sword. When the young Taoist thought for a moment, he would subconsciously stretch out a finger and tap the lotus crown on his head. Then he said, "Before coming here, I heard a senior brother say that we should be reasonable in doing things and close to human feelings. In that case, I'm no good. I'm too rigid and harsh. Although the world has its own fate, since the fundamental doctrine of my sect is deviated from that of the general sect, its single quote says fate to me. It's a good fate. I might as well follow the trend. The signet box and 108 signers can be given to you. The cause and effect are too chaotic. Once you can figure it out, it's very troublesome to cut them continuously. As for the private seal, it's a little heavy. I give it to you. Once the town has no prohibition, All of them were exposed in broad daylight. What's the harm to you? Alas, can you give some gold, silver and copper money? It's too careless and tacky. But what's the good news? Unexpectedly, Chen Ping'an cut the nail and cut the railway. Well, dear Xiang, if you send money, you are very particular and not tacky. The young Taoist joked and said, you can't understand the two things before, but you must know the significance is not small. Why don't you ask for them? The young man said slowly. A white bowl that can hold at least a large jar of water. A Taoist priest who can burn rune paper to the elders of the underworld. A seriously injured and strange girl. And a bag of 28 copper coins made of gold. Old man Yang used to say that we are strange here. But now I have seen it with my own eyes. If I met those two foreign men and women, I would certainly hide from all of you today. The gate of heaven will not open. The young Taoist leaned against the cart and whispered. That foreign woman pointed her finger at the center of your eyebrow. It's an activity of forcibly opening people's orifices. But it's called pointing in martial arts. There are different techniques and intentions. For example, the door of your yard is not firm, right? She deliberately knocked it with a hammer. Of course, the door can enter, but the foundation is broken. Imagine the storm in the future in frosty and snowy weather. The man who opened the door had long smeared oil on the soles of his feet. But what about you, the owner of the perennial residence? Chen Ping'an hesitated. I can bear hardships. Looking at the straw sandal boy who doesn't look like a joke, the young man smiled. This is the first time she heard you. If you have strong muscles and bones and strong chain and blood, it's not difficult for you to live to 30 or 40 years old. Then she slapped your heart with her palm. It's the real fatal injury. It broke your body and cut off your way to life. To be exact. You had a chance. You may not have missed it by taking advantage of the great fortune of overturning heaven and earth and reversing heaven and earth. It's possible to continue to practice on the main road. It's like a rolling flood. There are countless dragons, fish and shrimp in the river. Of course, people with good luck will reap a lot. But even if someone with the worst luck picks up dragons, snakes and turtles, he may be able to catch a small fish and shrimp. Chen Ping'an didn't look shocked or panicked. He stood there quietly without even the slightest sign of pretending to be calm. The young Taoist, neither appreciating nor belittling, sighed softly. Chen Ping'an, young and indifferent to life and death, is not a good thing. Do you think it's best to live? But if there's really no way, God won't let you live and die. Aren't you afraid? Because that is actually a chance for you to meet again. Chen Ping'an did not deny it. The young Taoist suddenly scolded. Have you ever thought about how they would feel when they saw you, even if you were lucky enough to meet your parents in the vast dark? The more the young Taoist said, the more angry he became. He stretched out a finger and tried to poke the young man's head, as if to poke the own head open. The white impermanence in official and unofficial histories and strange stories has a high white hat on his head. Whenever he comes to the sun to detain the souls of the dead can clearly see for big words on the white hat. You're here too, Chen Ping'an. I ask you, will your parents be happy to ask you Chen Ping'an when they see you? Son, you're here too. Do you really think there are few people in the world who can be children or husband and wife for life? I tell you plainly, don't think. Even those Xianxia leaders who can change the color of mountains and rivers with a word don't have such ability. What's more, you Chen Ping'an, a poor man who was in danger and doesn't have 3 meals. At last, the young Taoist was very serious. The boy was at a loss. This is the first time in his life that a young man feels so frightened and his hands and feet are cold. The boy squatted down and held his head in his hands. This time he didn't scratch his head. The young Taoist looked down at the thin figure. It's all right. I owe you a favor to save people. I thought it would be best to default. Otherwise, I'll leave the rest to the afterlife. Now it seems that I'll pay you all back and be settled in the future. I'll tell you 3 things. Remember them one by one. The first thing is to take Miss Ning to the South Stream outside the town when she is better. Remember them. Take her with you, or you won't be able to go 100 times by yourself. After you go, even if you're shameless, You have to strive to be their helper apprentice. It's okay to dig wells and move stones, or forge swords and iron. After all, you found a shady place to stay. In this way, Miss Ning has paid off your favor, and you don't think you're taking advantage of others. The second thing is that after the 5th day of May, you should often go to the stream under the corridor bridge to pick up stones, catch fish, and touch shrimp. In short, you should go often. When you are upset, you should go even more when you feel excited. As for the harvest, with your little chance, God knows, but at least diligence can make up for your clumsiness. If you still get nothing, you can't do it. Just accept your fate. After the young Taoist said two things, he began to push the cart. He saw that the young man was still squatting, just facing himself. Get up and help. After getting up, the boy went to help the cart and asked curiously, didn't he say three things? The young Taoist snorted coldly. I told you I wanted to go. The boy was stunned. After that, the Taoist told some things. Those copper coins are very expensive. Keep them well for the next period of time. Don't go out. Smile a lot. You always have a long face and don't look handsome. Who are you going to show me? I'm about. The young Taoist seems to be an elder. When he took the car out of the yard, the young man said he came to push out the mud bottle lane, and the young Taoist didn't refuse. Walking in the alley one after another, the Taoist finally said, I'd better say something. According to the life calculated by me, it's not your fault that your parents died early. The young Taoist paused for a long time until the cart was about to leave the mud bottle lane. Then he whispered, not only that, your life is rough, but your parents are still affected. The boy was silent. Finally, the young Taoist insisted on not letting the young man see him off and drove away to the east gate alone. Looking back, the boy was still standing at the entrance of the alley, waving to himself with a bright smile. It doesn't look like a dying man at all.